Whoa, I hit record a drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, Vintage friends on my face, looking like I'm from the deep. These no Cartiers, pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a peak, bro. Whoa, whoa. I press the button and the doors go off like, whoa. That money clip is not a new, now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Neighborhood on the scene, neighborhood on the strip, neighborhood be the name, neighborhood no Crip, neighborhood that's me, neighborhood that's Nick, neighborhood do the dance, neighborhood do the deal. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way. I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Bills on the deals, that's brose. Got no pay, on no say. Okay, this the new, tell them read it. Been the one since the fetus. Don't sleep on me, Tempur-Pedic. That's a no, no, no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a ball head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas, then we gon' go, go, go. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like, whoa. That money clip is not a new, now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. I press the button and the doors go off like, whoa. That money clip is not a new, now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. I keep God first. I see evil, when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go, 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 go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off. You living boring, I'm gonna set it off. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it off. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it off. Son of God, no, I am not son of man. Blessings keep falling, the fingers keep coming in. I got you, but just know I'm texting like Uncle Sam. Left to the bank, you know that I'm coming in. We don't do it for the bands though, we don't do it for the clout. Legacy on the line, so I'm moving in and out. Seen good ones turn top dog, greedy ones get knocked off. I keep looking at the bench like I could never not ball. Coach keep me in the game, Curry deadly with the range. I keep looking in the mirror like, who is he? I'm insane. Who am I? He insane. Guess I ain't the one to blame. What's done is done, won't change. Time to live up to my name. Real will be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I'm made for a while. No sleeping while I won't fall. No sleeping while I won't eat out. I keep God first. I see evil, when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go, 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 go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off. You living boring, I'm gonna set it off. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it off. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it off. Told me, baby, meet me at the bank. Told me, mama, I'ma break the trend. Locked in, I'ma change the way. Working for my baby's kids. Hard times couldn't make the rent. Working hard couldn't save a cent. Lonely nights, just me and God. Swear to him, always made the ends. Grab a paper, see the news. Hate coming by the tools. Walk a mile in my shoes. Something you could never do. Got my back against the wall. Bet I always pull through. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Sending shots, I block 'em. Superman with the moves. Rock 'em, sock 'em, drop off 'em. Play to win, never lose. Run it up, I top 'em. Play full belly too. I hip hop or pop 'em. Anything I could do. The real will be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I'm made for a while. No sleeping while I won't fall. No sleeping while I won't eat out. I keep God first. I see evil, I evil when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go, 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 go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off. You living boring, I'm gonna set it off. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it off. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it off. Nowadays, nothing really excites me. Only one of me and nobody's like me. Phone ringing and I tell him it's ice. I got wifey on blinging, she ice. Freeze, photo, please, no photos. No, G's, no, please, no photos. Hit the door and the doorman just whole team here might need some. Still young, but I move like a new deal to my lawyer. If it down in my management, I'm just warming up, wait till I producer saw the numbers one. Different colors in my baggy light. Chalk it up, talk of the town where you're talking up. Wanna get you a ring and you tough enough. Wanna get you new things for your pockets dull. Run it up. I used to be quiet and out of luck. Now I move up and move humble cause the hate and the jealousy. My mama telling me count up your blessings and run it up. Nowadays nothing really excites me. Only one of me and nobody's like me. Phone ringing and I tell him it's ice. I got wifey on blinging, she ice. Freeze, photo, please, no photos. No, G's, no, please, no photos. I keep giving game away. I put game on layaway. I got paid to play today. I get paid to stay away. I get paid on rainy days. I might make it rain today. I got paid off pain today. Thought it'd take the pain away. In my own lane, finger roll. I would never sell my only soul. Heard your whole team was for sale. Heard it's on the market for the low. Who the realest, we might never know. All this acting, you gon' play a role. Give you the world when they sign you up. Dry you out and then they line you up. Ooh, now you're looking hungry, ribs are touching, need some food. Now you're all on live acting surprised, but you was fooled. Boy, get out the way, it's been a day, now you're old news. Now you got the pen and pad, you're trying to take my moves. Nowadays, nothing really excites me. Only one of me and nobody's like me. Phone ringing and I tell him it's ice. I got wifey on blinging, she ice. Freeze, photo, please, no photos. No, G's, no, please, no photos. Nowadays, nothing really excites me. Only one of me and nobody's like me. Phone ringing and I tell him it's ice. I got wifey on blinging, she ice. Freeze, photo, please, no photos. No, G's, no, please, no photos. Giddy up, 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 giddy up. I got horses in the back, trunk in the front, exterior red and that inside buttercup. I got what you need, I got what you want, I got what you need. Tell them giddy up, call her whoop, cause she poppin'. D4L, that's no option. She my one and only lover. So much fun, like I'm Thugger. Giddy up, fill my cup. Cheddar cheese, Velveeta. Put in work, double up. And I can't waste none of my time, so stop clogging up my line. Giddy up, 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 giddy up. I got horses in the back, trunk in the front, exterior red and that inside buttercup. I got what you need, I got what you want, I got what you need. Tell them giddy up. Rubber band, 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 man. Band man like the cannon. I like dancing. See you panning, see you scrambling. Giddy up, keep it tucked. Put in work, on the hush. What's the word? Calling bluffs. Now I can't waste none of my time, so stop clogging up my line. Giddy up, giddy up.
before you. Choose wisely. I once said in the past that a broken man is a hopeless man, and a hopeless man is a dangerous man. We're going to explore the journey of Charleston White, controversial, enigmatic, a father, an educator, an advocate for juveniles, a black man that more or less talks about the ravages of growing up without a father, but also a black man that personifies something that many don't have after they've been adjudicated. Is something called resilience. Resilience is more or less tied into resiliency theory, which more or less pontificates the point that people that are more or less have been impacted by the negative things in the past can overcome. But people like Charleston White that grew up without a father, even though he grew up middle class, Charleston White, it could be argued, is not the typical person. But there were 4 people that took a chance on Charleston White back in the past when he was adjudicated and more or less convicted of murder. And Charleston White eventually evolved. We live in a time where there are some that believe that we tend to rely too heavy on victimhood. There are some that minimizes, that tends to glorify victimhood. There are some that don't see, are somewhat in the middle. And while I tend to be somewhat in the middle because your past and your victimhood can more or less impact you, you don't always have to remain the victim. In this show with Charleston White, we're going to have a live show. We're going to have live Q&A and questions. And we're going to talk about the importance of fatherlessness. We're going to talk about the impact of family. We're going to talk about race relations. We're going to talk about why Charleston has such an incessant hatred towards gangs, or he sees as foolishness. And we're going to talk about all the things this man has been through, from being adjudicated to having a prosthetic eye, to evolving into one of the best YouTube content creators in YouTube. We're going to talk about the power and the impact of mental health on the minds of so many black people, as Charleston talked about, and he was correct about the prefrontal lobe, and why sometimes when kids are young and the lack of guidance, they can be victims of their own ignorance. I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this show as we bring it to you live from the greatest state in the union, the Tar Heel State. And I want you to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. Family is powerful and paramount to understanding how the mind works. And we're going to explore the nuances of Charleston White and the things that he went through as a young child, and why there needs to be a reformation of the mind, a reformation of the communities. And then we're going to ask ourselves the question, is it too late? Enjoy this show and join us live in this live Q&A as you can ask Charleston questions. But remember, Charleston is an OG, and you better respect the guests or you can get this work. Be well. You guys hear me? If you can hear me, put a 1 up. About to start soon. Just hold tight. I'm going to bring Charleston on in a minute. Just hold tight. You guys sit back as I get ready to bring Charleston on in a few minutes. Hold tight.
I hit recorded drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, vintage friends on my face, looking like I'm from the deep. These no Cartiers, pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a beat, bro. Whoa, whoa. I press the button and the doors go off like, whoa. That money clip is not a new, now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Neighborhood on the scene, neighborhood on the strip, neighborhood be the name, neighborhood no Crip, neighborhood that's me, neighborhood that's Nick, neighborhood do the dance, neighborhood do the deal. Okay, thought I'd never make it, like no way. I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold. one since a fetus. Don't sleep on me, Tempur-Pedic. That's a no, no, no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a ball head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas, then we gon' go, go, go. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like, whoa. That money clip us now, that new that looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. I press the button and the doors go off like, whoa. That money clip us now, that new that looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. I keep God first. I see evil, when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go, 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 go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off. You living boring, I'm gonna set it off. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it off. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it off. Son of God, no, I am not son of man. Blessings keep falling, the fingers keep coming in. I got you, but just know I'm texting like Uncle Sam. Left to the bank, you know that I'm coming in. We don't do it for the bands though, we don't do it for the clout. Legacy on the line, so I'm moving in and out. Seen good ones turn top dog, greedy ones get knocked off. I keep looking at the bench like I could never not ball. Coach keep me in the game, Curry deadly with the range. I keep looking in the mirror like, who is he? I'm insane. Who am I? He insane. Guess I am the one to blame. What's done is done, won't change. Time to live up to my name. Real won't be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I'm made for a while. No sleep in the while, I won't fall. No sleep in the while, I won't eat out. I keep God first. I see evil, when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go, 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 go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off. You living boring, I'm gonna set it off. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it off. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it off. Told me, baby, meet me at the bank. Told me, mama, I'ma break the trend. Locked in, I'ma change the weight. Working for my baby's kids. Hard times couldn't make the rent. Working hard couldn't save a cent. Lonely nights, just me and God. Swear to him, always made the ends. Grab a paper, see the news. Hate coming by the tools. Walk a mile in my shoes. Something you could never do. Got my back against the wall. Bet I always pull through. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Sending shots, I block 'em. Superman with the moves. Rock 'em, sock 'em, drop off 'em. Play to win, never lose. Run it up, I top 'em. Plate full, belly too. I hip hop or pop 'em. Anything I could do. The real won't be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I made for a while. No sleep in the while, I won't fall. No sleep in the while, I won't eat out. I keep God first. I see evil, when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go, 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 go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off. You living boring, I'm gonna set it off. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it off. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it off. Nowadays, nothing really is.
Okay, well then.
Phone ringing and I tell him it's right.
All right, guys, so Charleston's going to pop in for a few minutes. He's a very busy man. As soon as he pop in, we'll chop it up. I apologize for the delay, but he's a very busy man, and, you know, he's big in these YouTube streets. But he's going to give you guys a few minutes. We're going to talk about who is Charleston White, What is he passionate about? And we're going to talk about the power of being resilient, as this man has been through a lot. And so whenever Charleston come on, you know, it'll be short, but he did decide to give me some time, and I'm grateful for the time that he's going to give. And so we're going to chop it up a little bit for a couple of minutes, and we're going to talk about Charleston White, but also we're going to talk about the power of being resilient. We're going to talk about the power of being resilient. So let's look at this clip real quick, and we're going to have a conversation in a few minutes. Let's do it.
One, you ran away from home, and then you and a couple of your friends went on a crime spree.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I went on a crime spree, man. My mother had just gotten pregnant with my sister. So she was a few months pregnant with my sister. So I was dealing with the emotional and psychological effects of not being the baby no more. So now I got a new baby coming. My brother was already in and out of the Texas Youth Commission. My grandmother was discovered. We already knew she was on drugs, but she had took a decline. She was addicted to heroin. My Aunt B was on crack, and so my mother was trying to help my grandmother, who was coming over stealing. She was trying to help my Aunt B, who had 5 kids that was about to go into the. So my mom was the backbone of the family. So while she's trying to help everybody, then she's dealing with my brother, who's in trouble as a juvenile delinquent. So I get to fly under the radar. So man, September 16th, I ran away from home. And I went on a crime spree. September 18th, that crime spree led to a guy by the name of Michael Levy losing his life. I came up with a plan. Man, we go to the mall, steal some starter jackets. At that time, the starter athletic jackets was the shit. My whole concept for wanting to steal these jackets, it was a teenage club that we all went to every Friday and Saturday called Tingles out in Grand Prairie. So, man, I just wanted to steal some jackets.
Can you hear me, brother? Mr. White, if you can hear me, unmute yourself. Can you hear me, brother? Unmute yourself. If you can hear me, Charleston, unmute yourself, brother. Unmute yourself. Your phone is there. You go.
Yeah, I can hear. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, sir. What's up, brother? How you doing, Mr. Charleston White?
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, brother?
No doubt. Listen, man, I know you're a busy man. I know you got to pop off. But listen, I'm going to ask you a few questions, man. You know, you are very talented, but also enigmatic, brother. You're making a lot of scenes in these YouTube streets, man. And, you know, I'm very profound as it relates to your struggle and your story. I want you to tell the audience who's Charleston White, because I know you got to go simple. Who is Charleston White? And I know you don't believe in victimhood, Charleston. You believe in empowerment. But who is Charleston White, and how did you evolve to become the man that you are today?
Oh man, well, I'm a father and a husband.
No doubt.
I grew up in your typical traditional single parent African American home in America. You know, hardworking mother. Teenage mother, made it out of poverty. Worked her way up to upper middle class, to affluence.
Yes, sir.
And growing up without dad, man, made some wrong choices and decisions that caused me to, get locked up at an early age for a murder case.
Right. I was looking at the clip, man, that I was showing the audience. We'll finish it, letting them see it, after you pop off. But, you are very passionate about your journey, man. When did your evolution come? When did the evolution of Charleston White take place? You went from being go ahead, brother. I'm sorry, go ahead.
In the juvenile system.
Yes, sir.
I got people hear my story and ignore the timeline of events. I'm the super predators who Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden talked about in the late 80s, early 90s, when they say that there's going to be a wave of children in America that's going to be super predators. So that sent a shockwave through America, and they started creating laws where they can take a 12-year-old in America and sentence him to life without parole.
Yes, sir.
It's something that he does as a 12. So they start creating laws, 3-strike laws, mandatory minimum. But for me, I'm in the state of Texas. And in the state of Texas during that time, we had a governor by the name of Ann Richards. Ann Richards was a recovering alcoholic drug addict, right?
Right.
So she understood programs and helping the disenfranchised. And so I landed in the juvenile system during a time where America in its institutions believed that children were children, and children needed to be nurtured back into the right state.
No doubt.
So that's where my evolution came. That's one part of my evolution. So that got me from 14 to 21.
Right.
So when I got out at age 14, at age 21, my record was sealed. So there's no history of, when you pull my criminal record, I have no record of any felony convictions. That murder doesn't show on my record because during that time, juvenile records are sealed.
Right.
Right. So I landed in a group of children who became the first generation of children in Texas, as well as in the South and the southern regions of America. We're the first children in America to begin to commit crimes such as murder and capital murder, and began to be tried and sentenced for these type of violent crimes.
Right.
So because of that, that's how George Bush became governor of Texas. When he ran for governor, his main platform was juvenile justice, tough on juvenile crime. That's what got him elected. That's how he was able to beat Governor Ann Richards, right? He's going to be tough on children. Right. And so, man, they changed the laws in America, man. And so when I got out in 1998, my juvenile record had been sealed. The state of Texas probably spent over $10 million investing into my therapy, investing into my cognitive development. Right. You see what I'm saying? So we had the world's best psychiatrist, I grew up in a home in school. It was co-ed, boys and girls, but everybody there was either a murderer, a rapist, a kidnapper, an arsonist, violent youthful offenders. Right. The people who worked there was called house parents. They wasn't
house parents. Right.
They wasn't called juvenile correctional officers. So the title of the worker shaped the mind of the employee. I'm a house parent.
House parent, right.
They was like our parents.
Right.
And so it gave me all the skills and all the tools that I needed to come out here and be successful.
No doubt, no doubt. Right? And see, the irony of it, Charleston, is this, brother. I used to work in law enforcement. I got a background in law enforcement. I'm a therapist, but I started off working in the colleges. I was a college parent, like you were talking about. I used to work with youth for juvenile offenders, adjudicated offenders, and I influenced a lot of them. I used to work with the Crips. We used to work with the Bloods. I did all of it, man. So your story resonates with me because my background is very extensive. I worked in law enforcement, mental health corrections. I worked in the Department of Juvenile Justice, where we house adjudicated offenders in North Carolina. I taught schools of special ed, teaching now, and now I'm a therapist now. So I've done it all. And you're correct, having those house parents played a major role in the development of kids. But you said, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
And I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good, brother. Go ahead.
Let me, I want to key in on something.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Charles.
The role of a house parent is when I get off the phone and my mother just told me my brother was shot and killed, and I'm over there crying and bawling. The house parent can hug me, right, and say it's gonna be okay. Right. The juvenile correctional officer can't touch me, right, because it's gonna be considered inappropriate behavior if the juvenile correctional officer give me a hug and squeeze me and say it's gonna be okay. Right. The mindset of the juvenile correctional officer is, I don't want to touch him no way. The house parent relates to the kid. Right. Every day the house parent comes in, the house parent is seeking to understand, why is this child behavior the way it is? Right. So, man, it was men like you. I've been out of the juvenile system since 1998. Yes, sir. Me and Mr. Davis still talk. Right. He was a man like you. Yes, sir. It was men like Mr. Jones. It was men like Mr. Jumper, Mr. Mathis, Mr. Daniels, Mr. Tony, Mr. Eames, Mr. Harris. It was those men that I studied from age 14 to 21, looking at their character traits and their consistent actions in 7 years. I heard them talk about how they was husbands. I heard them talk about how they was fathers. If I wouldn't have never went into that juvenile system, I wouldn't have never saw men like you that can
Right.
pour into me.
Yes, sir. Right.
So
Right.
I got to meet my fathers. I got to meet my uncles. I got to meet the men that I desired to have in my home life in the juvenile system.
Right.
And I never forgot those men. I never forgot those men characters. And I took bits and pieces of all those men and I made a puzzle and I put the puzzle together. Now it took me a while to put the puzzle together.
Yes, sir.
But
Right.
when I put the puzzle together. That's when Charleston White became what y'all see today.
No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. You know, one of the things I'm very impressed with you, Charleston, you don't believe in victimhood. I want you to explain to the audience why you don't believe in victimhood.
My mother told me all things work for the good of those
Right.
who love God, that is called according to his will and purpose.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Right.
She would say that and it sounded stupid. She sounded crazy.
Right.
And when I finally got the courage to rebuke that and say, no, mama, that don't even make sense. And my mother broke it down to me. She said, son, when you look at that scripture, and this is her belief system that I inherited from watching her put this game down, right? So she telling me, son, it don't have no exception to that. It doesn't say but, it says all things. What about a child getting molested? All things. What about a baby getting killed? All things.
Right.
What about this?
Right.
All it says all things work for the good. So man, even the bad, even your bad has an equation of goodness based on your perception of the bad.
No
so
doubt.
if you see yourself as a victim never sees itself as strong. A victim never sees itself as successful. A victim looks for an excuse. A victim has never been a hero.
Right.
So a victim mind keeps you in a victim stance.
Right. Right.
A victim stance will forever solidify you in a victim's position. Who wants to be looked at as a victim? Poor
Right.
me.
Right.
Poor me.
Right.
So what I learned from going through all the years of counseling, what I learned is that's the start of every cycle of violence.
Right.
The
right.
victim mind, the poor me, that's the start of the cycle. Is the poor me attitude. Man, I was raped. Man, my mama did this. Man, my daddy wasn't there. That's the start of the cycle.
I agree with you. It is the start of the cycle, but I don't think you're not trying to minimize victimhood. You're not trying to minimize what they've been through, but you're just trying to say if you stay in that condition, then you will forever remain a victim. If you look at some of the things our ancestors went through.
Okay, once you realize you've been victimized, now what? Do you stay there?
No, I agree with you. Right. You can't stay there. Right. I agree with that. I agree with that. Right.
So at some point, most victims evolve from the state of being victimized to at some point standing at the top of the mountain with a story of triumph.
Right. Okay, I respect that. Right.
So
let me ask you. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So you know, there's a such thing, Charleston, in the clinical world called resiliency theory. And resiliency theory say that there are temperamental traits, there's environment, there's biology that more or less plays a role in how people evolve. You know, you went from death to power, right? You went from death to power to the point now you tend to disassociate yourselves away from those negative people that had an influence on you.
Well, here's the thing. Most adults lose their resiliency.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Most adults can't endure what children endure. Imagine an abused child. Imagine an abused child who's being molested, who has to get up and pretend this doesn't happen. That's resiliency, right? The kid who listens to their mother get beat at night and have to try to find a way to get through the night, get up and get dressed and go to school
and go and try to act a normal child. That's resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
So typically a child holds all of this abuse, all of this pain. He holds it or she holds it within, and they don't break, right? So when they become adolescents, when they start becoming teenagers, a little of that starts to show in their behavior because they're starting to lose the resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
So it's starting to show in behavior. By the time they 18, 19, 20, they have been robbed of the direct connection to be able to have that resiliency because of the environment, as you said.
Right.
Man, now put yourself in a child's shoe. Most of us will tell a kid, sit down, be quiet, don't move. Adults can't even do that.
Right.
Sit down, be quiet, shut up, and don't move.
Right. Right.
Adults can't do that.
I agree with that.
So for what a child has to endure, there's a level of resiliency that you have to have in order to endure what you go through, or you'll commit suicide.
Right.
Or you'll explode in the fight or flight and hurt someone else.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
So my level of resiliency come from when I was 5 years old. I snuck outside, went to the laundromat, playing with my cousins. I was on top of the laundromat, jumping up and down, and I fell in the washing machine and broke everything from my waist down.
Oh, wow.
So I had to learn how to walk again.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So naturally the family is gonna say, boy, that boy bad. Boy, look at him, got himself broke up, snuck outside, went down there and broke it, but boy, that boy bad. So then 2-3 years later, I put my eye out playing with a homemade slingshot.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
I had 9 eye surgeries before having my right eye removed.
Yes, sir.
So now I'm the accident prone kid. Now, but I got a lot. I'm an ambitious kid. I'm energetic. So back then they say you bad, so they put the label on me. So I'm a small frame kid. I got one eye. I got a disability. So I got to fight past the poor me attitude, man. I got one eye, and
Right.
people picking on me about my eye. So I got to fight, and I got some school years since I had so many eye surgeries. I had to go to school with a patch on my eye. So
Right.
now I got the kids asking, man, what's wrong with your eye? So
Right.
I had to fight past the victim mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just now realizing, man, I've been fighting all my life. Physical altercation, starting fights, playing a bully with one eye.
Right.
That's resiliency.
It's very resilient. And, you know, I would say, man, I think what you've been through is supernatural to some degree. I believe that a praying mama had her hands on you because what you've been through is short of a miracle. You know, I do agree with you. All things work together for the good to those that love Christ Jesus and to those that are according to his purpose. But also, I believe in the prayers of the righteous availeth much. And it seems like to me, God has had his hand on you for a long period of time, even when you was caught up in the illegal activities. It seems like you've been given favor. What's your take on that?
Oh, man, my mother have been saying things like that all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't into my mid-30s till I gained an understanding of what she was saying, searching for fatherhood.
Right. We're going to talk about that briefly.
You see what I'm saying? Searching for fatherhood. I was able to gain. All my mother could give me is her belief in God.
Right.
I rejected that until I was almost 25, 26. Because my mother believed in God so much, when I took on the gang culture, I wrote my mother a letter and told her I got the Crip God now. Mama, I don't want your God no more.
Yes, sir. Right.
But I was angry as a kid.
Right.
I was angry at mama, daddy, God, the system, the courts, myself. Man, but past the anger, I was hurt.
Yes, sir.
Past the hurt, I was able to identify, man, I felt unloved. I felt rejected. I felt abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to understand what mama was saying, man, that woman prayers carried not just me. My brother caught a murder case 6 months after me.
Mm-hmm.
Killed a man execution style. Got 99 years at the age of 19. Committed the murder at 17. Got 99 years at 19. My mother had 2 sons who was locked up for 2 high-profile murders all over the newspaper. And she worked at General Motors. So she got to go to that big old plant and everybody know them her boys and deal with the public shame and public humiliation of everybody saying, yeah, that's what she gets. She gave them boys everything.
Right.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Right.
The family talking about her. She feeling like, what I done wrong. Not only that, her mother is a drug addict that's in and out of prison. Her daddy just come home from federal prison. Her baby sister is on crack. The crack era just hit. All 5 of her kids just got put in foster care. Her brother just come home from prison on drugs, sleeping on the couch. And this woman got to carry all of her. So when I get locked up, she got to visit me one weekend. She got to go visit my brother the next weekend. She got to go see my grandmama the next weekend. She got to see granddaddy the next weekend. She got to go see Uncle Wayne the next weekend. She got to go see Aunt B. And this start over every month. So that woman prayers, man, not just her prayers. Because a lot of people have seen their mamas and grandmamas pray only to get up out their knees and come home from church to cuss everybody out, to drink, and fornicate. No, man, I watched this woman prayers and her actions, her integrity and her dignity and her character all aligned with her belief system.
Right. She lived out the mandates of Christ. And you're
let
correct.
me just answer your question, because I had to take the audience there to take them to where I'm going to tell them right now. Right. Because of my mother, and I want every young person, I want every mother to hear me. Because of my mother, I got favor from the courts. I got favor from the judge. I got favor from the school. I got favor from the institution. Everywhere I went, I got favor because they saw who I came from. I'm doing the fool. I'm making her look shame. I'm making her look like she's a horrible mother. But boy, when they show up and see what kind of mother this kid come from, I got favor.
No doubt. You definitely have favor, brother. You definitely
so the world, listen to me, mothers and fathers. The world is going to treat your children according to who their mother and father is.
Yes, sir. I agree with that, brother. I totally agree. You're 100% correct. You know, Charleston, you know, you're a powerful man. You know, some will see you as an enigma, but I'm going to ask you this question. I know you got to go because you got something to do. I'm not going to hold you up. Whenever you got to pop off, just pop off.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Go ahead. I'll let you know.
But I'm going to ask you this question, Charleston. What did you miss as a child, and how did it make you callous? Now, I think you talked about it a little bit, but what did you miss as a child, and how did it make Charleston White callous? And does broken fathers produce broken sons, in your opinion?
Charleston White was never callous. Charleston White was playing and acting because Charleston White lacked identity. What I missed as a child, as every other black boy missed, a father to be there coming out their mama's womb to give him an identity, starting with a name.
Right.
I didn't have a father, a man, to give me an identity. Mama had to work. Mama can't give me no identity no way. She's a woman.
Right.
I can't identify with whoa, man.
No doubt. I totally agree, brother. No doubt.
So I need a identity. And so I've never been spanked by a man. I've never been hugged by a man. I've never been disciplined by a man. I've never had a man put his arms around me and hug me, man.
Wow, that's deep, man. That's real.
I don't know what it feels like, man. So I used to run to the church and try to get close to the preacher, because that's what mama say, son. You got to find you a church home and a preacher and sit up under their covering. And every nigga I tried to go sit up under, I couldn't relate to, man.
Wow.
I needed to see the man. I didn't need it to hear scriptures. I need to see a man.
Yes, sir.
So I've been blind man shuffling. It's not. So what I learned from trying to make my heart harden, from trying to play like I was hard, I learned that there's no such thing as a child with a cold, callous heart. We all acting and playing based on the roles that's presented to us in the environment, situation, and circumstance that we arise out of as young black boys.
Yes, sir.
If you ain't never seen a doctor, how you know how to play doctor? You play mama and daddy. You
Right.
play mama and daddy, hunch and get booties with your cousins.
Right.
If you ain't never seen a banker, how do you play banker? You play cowboys and Indians. You play cops and robbers. You want to be the robber instead of the cop. You see, so if I don't see this, if I don't see a man, how do I know to stand up and pee? If I don't see a man as a boy and I'm taught to sit down and pee, when do I learn to stand up and pee?
Right. 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 That's powerful, man. Let me ask you a question, Charles. You know, you talked about fathers and fatherlessness. What have you poured into your son that you didn't get from your own dad? What have you poured into?
My presence.
Yes, sir. Talk about that.
The good, the bad, and the ugly of the dad. Mm-hmm. The good, the bad, and the ugly of the daddy. See, mama want to take away the bad and the ugly of the daddy and act like it ain't there. But 27 of my chromosomes and 27 of hers in there. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So what my son got, like I tell my mama all the time, mama, he got a daddy that can identify the bad in him that comes from the root, the seed, me. I know what to look for in that boy.
Right.
I know what demons I wrestle with that's gonna go from me to him. I know what to look for.
Right.
So he has a guardianship. That's what guardianship means. I'm guarding the spirit too. I'm guarding his mind. He come from me. So what he got is the presence of a father. Just think if we lost the presence of our Father in heaven.
Yes, sir. I totally agree.
The presence of a father. Then when God's presence comes down, it moves and it shakes. Your Father's presence is more than anything. The presence of a father.
Right. I totally agree, brother. I totally agree with you 100%. And I'm going to share something with you. You're correct, Charles. Now, I said this before in the past. You know, when a man has a father, he has purpose. Therefore, he cannot mire in victimhood. If you take it back, Charles, into theology, when Jesus was on the cross, or before he went to the cross, when he was in the garden, Jesus didn't stay there because he had a purpose, and his purpose was to do the will of the Father. So if many boys, Charleston, had fathers in their life, then they would not mire in victimhood. And it appears to me, like I said, man, you had something that was supernatural that a lot of kids don't have. I don't care what nobody say. I grew up Church of God in Christ Pentecostal Holiness, so I know what you're talking about. So I can relate with you. I can feel your energy. I can feel your spirit. And God has allowed you to be a icon or an exemplar to the broken. But, you know, Charleston, you talked about a lot of times, man, you talked about neuroscience, you know, and it's funny you talked about, because you talked about the prefrontal cortex, and you talked about the development of the brain. How do you feel like that played a role in your life? If you had a dad while your brain was still developing, do you think you would have been less prone to criminality?
Proper instructions motivate people. Mm-hmm. The instructions of your father. Mm-hmm. Your father's and your mother's instructions is your guide into the development of your brain.
Right.
Do what they say, you make it back home safely. Mm-hmm. They tell you when you leave the house, go to school, don't talk to strangers, don't do this. Their instructions is your guide.
Right.
So as a boy, even as little bitty boys, when he's outside playing, if he listened to mama's instructions for too long as a boy, he becomes emasculated.
Right. I agree with that. I totally agree.
He go outside and become a victim. Mm-hmm. Right? Because if a boy is trying to inherit the ways and the thoughts and the actions of mama, mama is always in victimhood because she's the weaker vessel. Mm-hmm. Mama is always in her emotions. So mama is a creature on a day-to-day basis who got to fight against being a victim.
Right.
So if a son is looking at his mother, he's looking at a victim. Mm-hmm. Without his daddy. So why wouldn't he look at himself as a victim? He don't have the balance, right? So daddy's instructions is, son is sitting in the classroom. He got some kids picking on him. He's in a victim situation. He's afraid. Dad, these guys want to fight. Mm. Dad's instructions is what transformed his mind from being a victim, from giving him the courage.
Right.
To play better football when he look and see daddy. To run faster when he look and see daddy. To try not to cry when he look and see daddy. See, the little boy, when he look and see daddy, it's an innate action in him to want to be strong and not be a victim.
I totally agree, brother. I agree.
It's innate in him.
I totally agree. I totally agree with that.
Not to look like a victim in front of daddy. It's like a strength that you get when daddy show up.
I agree. I agree.
But we got it from our big brothers because daddy wasn't there. When big brothers show up, nigga, we get bad and tough. Oh, my big brother here. Right. It's a level of security. It's a level of bravery that you walk out of your house with. You know my daddy at home.
Right.
So this is what dad does. Dad give you instructions on what to do. And when the little boy, he listens to dad every word, and he go do exactly what daddy tell him to do. And boy, that's where his courage come from.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take your scripture. The scripture even teaches us that a son can do nothing without the father. Mm-hmm. He can only do what he see his father does.
I agree. Yes, sir.
So that means he can do nothing. It says that the son can do nothing. So if you take that away, we got a bunch of boys doing nothing, no identity lost. They play gangster, they play pimp, they play robber, they play woman, they play all these different characters that's out in their circumstance. And they pick which character they want to play based off what's presented to them in their environment. So I had Uncle Wayne, who was a pimp, woman beater, granddaddy, womanizer, Googie, Keenan, selling dope, Uncle Boosie, gang member. So we saw Uncle Jodell, who was a CEO for Xerox, but we saw him once a year at the family reunion. So he who control images control minds.
I agree.
We're not consciously giving images to black children anymore. So if daddy ain't in the household, guess who the daddy? NBA Youngboy.
Right.
Lil Durk. Because that's who became my daddy. Eazy-E, Ice Cube, the lyrics of NWA became the father who gave me instructions, the men that I wanted to hear from.
Right. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. You know, when it sounds like to me your mom was like the women of the past, you know, and you speak very fondly of your mother. How is she, in your opinion, more astute than modern women? You know, modern women don't have the tenacity of your mom and your grandmother. How's your mother, in your opinion, a totally different breed of woman compared to the modern women that you see now?
My mama had boyfriends. My mama used to mess with big time drug dealers.
Oh wow!
We didn't know they was drug dealers until we got grown.
Right.
But I've never seen a man come out my mother's bedroom.
Right.
And she had boyfriends.
Right.
And I'm sure she had sex. Mm-hmm. But she never let those two little boys, me and my brother, see a man come out or enter into her bedroom. That alone speaks volumes of the level of a woman. Mm-hmm. There's never been a man in our household. My mother would not let a man move in. That's a different level of a woman. I've never heard my mother say anything bad about my father or my brother's dad. I never heard her say nothing bad about it. She used to take us to go see them niggas, try to find them. I've never heard my mother on the phone gossiping and talking about her sister. I ain't never seen my mother drunk or high on drugs, but I know she used to have a Crown Royal bottle with the bag. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I've never seen my mother in any other light other than a woman of dignity. I ain't never seen her screaming and arguing and cussing with nobody. Mm-hmm. But I've seen her argue with people, but never using foul curse words. My mother is the backbone of our family. She the one to take my grandmother to all her doctor's appointments. She the one, when my Aunt B died, say, sister, I'm gonna leave everything, the will to you, and you make sure my husband get this. You make sure my daughter, and because she knew my mother would do right. My mother was a foster parent for over 40 years.
Right.
My mother was a foster parent for over 40 years with no husband, no boyfriend, taking in the kids who was considered the worst and with the high level behavior problems.
Right.
So I saw some of the worst kids who had been molested and abused, and my mother nurtured them with the same love she nurtured us.
Right. Powerful. That's powerful.
And so remember I told you my mother had 2 sons that was locked up for murder. Both my brother and I was very involved with the criminal elements of society as teenage boys. Right. My mother never made excuses for us. When we took a life, my mother never cried on our behalf. She cried the fact that we done something so horrible, but she wouldn't teach us that. But my mother have always thought of the victims.
Right.
My brother been in prison for 30 years. They just gave him a year set off. Man, it crushed my mother's heart. But she always say, son, that other mother can't hug and talk to her son. At least I can still come see you and hug you and I can talk to you.
Wow. 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 That's powerful, man. Is your father Charleston still living, brother?
No, man, my father died. Oh, hold on, this mama right. Mom, I'm doing an interview. Hold on, here I come. Remember I told you I had that interview? Okay. Oh, that's her right there coming out. My sister.
I appreciate you doing this for me, brother. I really do. I appreciate it, man. I know you're a busy man. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
No, man. My father was a guy who retired from the Navy, man. He worked for the government. He lost it, man. He used to date this white woman. And he went to pick up from work one day. She was on one side of the street, he was on the other side of the street. As she got ready to cross the street, man, she was hit by a bus. Dad watched her get killed. And he was kind of like one of them Malcolm X niggas, man. You know, he mistreat white folk, get him a white girl mistreated to get back at white people. So and he used to mistreat her. So I think that used to mess with him. So he dealt with the mental aspect of watching her die. So he was very distant, over the years, man, until I got locked up for murder. He died in 2009, January 2009, man. The last time I had seen my father, he was downtown, dressed clean, had some headphones on. I was in my pretty truck with my Dayton's on it. I looked at my dad, homie, and I kept going. I didn't have children at the time.
Right.
At my last time seeing him. When he died, I had a 5-year-old son and I had a 6-month-old daughter. And my biggest regret was driving away from that man that day. So my mother calls me and tells me, son, Charles Ray died last night. My resentment and my anger toward my father, it didn't allow me to feel anything. So I'm like, well, and I'm his only son. So I told mama, shoes, his family will bury him. So mama called back the next morning and said, well, son, they down there fighting over Charles Ray money. Must got a little money left in the bank. I said, what? He got some money in the bank. I show up, hey, that's my daddy. Yeah, that's my daddy, y'all, and I say this to all fathers. Me and my daddy bought me a pair of feelers when I was locked up. I very recall him doing anything for me financially. And he didn't have to because my mother was very, very financially stable and well off. Right. But when my father died, my baby mama was on the run. She had been on the run for like 2 years. Man, I had just made the transition out the streets. I was in my first semester at the community college, man, trying to pursue a criminal justice degree. Man, I'm trying to change my life. I want to do something different. My father left me about $15,000. He didn't leave me. So that small inheritance that he left me, he made it right in the end. That's what an inheritance will do, homie.
Right.
That small. Now, it wasn't about the money. It's about what I was able to inherit from my father.
Right.
Yeah, man. So that took away the pain of all my years of wanting him to be there, man. Because that money made me the father I am today, man. I was able to go get my broad out of jail. You see, I was able to restore my children through the money he left me. The money he left me positioned me to I'm first semester in college. I'm 3 weeks in college, man. Broke, no gas money, no car, man, nothing. And that money positioned me and propelled me, man, to enter into the journey that I'm on. My father's death is where this journey started. My life changed at the time of my father's death. I had just became another father. My daughter was just born. Right. So the inheritance, the time, mama say God operate in times and seasons. The time, the seasons of my father's death and me being able to inherit what he had in his bank account put me on the path that got me to where I'm at now, man.
And brother, you're on a powerful path. You know, if you guys don't know Charleston White is a big time YouTube phenomenon. You know, I count it an honor for him to be on my platform. He's on Vlad TV. He's a big time star in YouTube. And so you guys don't realize what y'all getting tonight. This man didn't have to take the time, he could have charged me, but he didn't have to take the time to come on my platform and chop it up with me. But he's shown how he evolved from death to power. And right now you're seeing Charleston White manifesting his power. Charleston, you talked about you were part of the Crips, and I used to work with Crips and Bloods when I was in the youth development, even when I was in prison. But now it's almost like, I don't know if you mock them or you have a lot of disdain for it. How did you evolve from the Crips? And I know you've been in the YouTube streets talking about who's the guy, Matt Crip or 55.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me because I'll be laughing my ass when I hear it. I know what you were talking about. But when I hear Hoover and, Five and all that, I know what he's talking about. Because a lot of the guys I used to work with would talk about, French fries, King Hoover and Burger King and all that. But why do you, some people see you as like an enigma. It's like it's two sides of Charleston White. You see the benevolent side and then you see the vicious side. Go ahead, brother.
If we don't destruct the gang culture, how can we construct the community after all the damage is done? Right? Mm-hmm. The gang culture done destructed and destroyed the community. Right. We trying to rebuild the community without destructing the gang culture. Right. How we gonna do that without turning them down? They done tore down the community. Mm-hmm. So you worked in the juvenile system, bro. Yes, sir. Come on, big bro.
I did.
A kid. I come from the good home, right? I just want to be accepted. I don't want to kill nobody. I don't even know nothing about gangs when I get introduced to gangs. It just looked and sounded fun and cool based off what was propagated through me through the hip hop culture, the movies, right? Mm-hmm. The camaraderie, the brotherhood, make that shit look attractive. And they talking family talk. And they got somebody calling themselves OG big homie that's playing the role of a father who give you a hug every time y'all shake hands. Mm-hmm. Make you dead, man. So nigga, I fight for you. So in the juvenile system, most niggas who join gangs didn't join gangs on the streets. Mm-hmm. They joined in the juvenile system. Right. Went back home with this new stuff. So when I got in, man, it was a trend to join a gang, man. And I joined inside the juvenile system. We ain't never had a 20-minute fight. Nobody's never been brutally hurt behind the gang banging inside the juvenile system. Maybe a few knots on the head, few broken knuckles, few broken nose. We just in the juvenile system being boys. Right. Under the banner and the name of gang banging. Mm-hmm. So most of us, and even the juvenile workers used to say, man, you faking. When you go back home, y'all ain't even go write each other. Y'all ain't even go see each other. Y'all just doing this while y'all here. And they wasn't lying. Mm-hmm. So as I began to get older, brain development played a part. I'm in an environment that's healing my childhood issues. Mm-hmm. I'm in an environment that's addressing my childhood trauma. Mm-hmm. So if I'm getting healed in this juvenile facility, and when I come out, I'm healed, why would I still need the gang? Right. I don't have the same issues that made me enter into the gang. Mm-hmm. So in my 18, 19, 20, 20-year-old brain development, I'm getting closer to my prefrontal cortex connecting. So my logic and my reasoning is starting to become more clear at 21 compared to 14 and 15. Right. And now the culture is shifting The culture is saying fuck gang banging, and excuse my language.
No, you're fine, brother.
In 97, 98, Tupac had died. Biggie had died. Now the culture is propagating and promoting hustler drug dealing, not gang banging. Gang banging was promoted during the 90s. I'm coming home late 90s, early 2000s. So the culture is shifting. This stuff is more cultural than anything. The culture has more influence sometimes than the home teachings.
Right.
If you don't have a balance inside the home.
Right.
So that's where the evolution of Charleston saying, hold up, man, this gangbang stuff don't make it. I joined when I was a 14, 15-year-old kid, just entered into the juvenile system, wanting to prove I'm tough and I'm down. And made a hell of a name for myself. Boy, I worked my way up the ranks. I started calling shots. The big homie OG Zim left me to call shots. I called shots. I reigned 3-4 years with an iron fist. Playing, man. And the staff workers knew I was playing because they could see my mother and they could see through the this hardened facade that I was putting on. Man, that's a good kid. And so that's how I got out, man. They came back and they testified, you know, this kid playing. He's a good wannabe gangster. And now just think, if he pretending like this and almost got all us fooled, just thinking we put him in, you see what I'm saying? I got people fooled like I'm really this cripped out little bitty dude. Man, I was playing the whole time. So when my homeboys grow up and say, oh, what's up, nut cuz? And we start having dialogue and I tell them, man, I was playing the whole time.
Charles, I want to ask you a question, man. Because you appear to be about what, 5'7", 5'8". How tall are you, Charles?
I'm 5'8", 128 pounds.
Oh no, I guessed it because I'm 6'5", 6'6". But some would say, Charleston talk a lot of ish. As a brother in the post said, I don't know, they got mad because you talked about the dead or Nipsey. What do you say to your critics?
Hold on. I talked about a character named Nipsey.
Got you. Okay, got you. Yes, sir. Break that down.
I went to the funeral of this rapper.
Yes, sir.
Right? Mm-hmm. And while I was at the funeral, I'm watching all these people smoke weed. Mm-hmm. I'm watching all these people in the Staples Center there to celebrate. They there for Nipsey Hussle because of his music.
Yes, sir.
I'm sitting right behind the family and the entertainers on the floor. I'm close to the casket. Mm-hmm. It's a different feeling down there than it is when you look up in the crowd and as if they are at a concert, right? Mm-hmm. I started listening to his mother talk about a guy by the name of E.S.T. Mm-hmm. I started listening to the family member and Lauren London's son said that E.S.T. came to him in a dream and E.S.T. was in heaven and E.S.T. this is a kid, 7-year-old kid saying
Who's E.S.T, Charleston? Break that down, brother.
That's Nipsey Hussle.
Oh,
that's his real name. That's the real person.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm listening, we celebrate Nipsey, but we don't know nothing about E.S.T. Mm-hmm. So it's easy for me to talk about Nipsey because he was a rap character. Mm-hmm. And what our people get stuck on is the rap characters. Mm-hmm. That's why we love Jay-Z. That's why we love Beyonce, and we don't love our uncles. Mm-hmm. We don't love our grandmothers who fed us. We resent them. Mm-hmm. We don't respect our aunts who once was crack smokers, but now they in church living their life and they ain't on crack no more. Mm-hmm. We don't respect our uncles who used to be dope fiends and now they got their life together, but they ain't dope fiends no more.
Right.
But we'll respect DMX. But when Earl Simmons was struggling with his addiction and he couldn't go play DMX on the big stage, they laughed at Earl Simmons. But soon as DMX died, DMX got an album that came out. Boy, if they would have gave Earl Simmons an album, maybe he could have fought through the addiction.
Right.
So you see how we love these characters, but don't know nothing about the people or the person or the man. Mm-hmm. So I'm here to destroy that imagery character of Nipsey Hussle promoting Rolling 60 Crip.
I see, right.
See, Nipsey say, right. I'm going to turn all these bitches into lesbians. Hold on, right. Bro. You going to turn all our women into lesbians? Right. That's what Nipsey Hussle said.
Right.
But E.S.T has a daughter. So what I'm learning is we're getting stuck on these characters. That's why the church goer gets stuck on the preacher and not the Spirit of God. That's why when the preacher say something that offends the congregation, they go to another church, because they get stuck on the character of the man, preacher man. So we're getting stuck on these characters and we don't even get to know the man. So I assassinate the characters so we can look at the man.
That evolution of power, and you know, like I said, man, you're tenacious. You know, you're a soldier. You got a lot of heart. I ain't never seen a man like you. You got a lot of heart. You know, you speak your mind. You say what you believe in. You mean what you say. Charleston, you are what I call a social conservative. It seems like you're a conservative. I know you're running. I think you're going to be running for office in the future. Why did you choose the conservative branch of politics versus the more liberal? And how, more or less, do you feel that social politics play a role in building a strong black family and black community?
I became educated. I went and studied the difference between liberalism and conservatism. I went and studied and researched the difference between the two parties from the origins to the time of now. And I realized that most black people, our grandmothers and our grandfathers and our parents, are conservative people.
Right.
They have conservative principles. They have conservative value. Right. Liberalism is the hippie's mind. Our grandparents wasn't hippies.
Right.
They don't embrace no ideology, do whatever you want, be free. But you know, so no. So once I learned that, I'm a conservative guy with conservative principles, conservative values. I just happen to vote for Republicans because most Republican candidates push that conservative value platform. If I meet a Democrat that those conservative values align with, then I vote either or. But I'm looking at principles and value when I'm looking at politics. Does politics play a part in our social construction and progression? Yes, man. A lot of the things that's built in this country that has to do with black institutions was built around the Republican Party.
Right.
When you look at everything that black people have as far as rights and legislation come from the Republican Party.
Right.
100% of the Republican Party supported the Civil Rights Act when most Democrats. So when you dig beneath the surface of these two parties, that's soliciting votes every 2 or every 4 years, and you start seeing the origins and understanding the history, and then you can see where the flip and the switch and the trickery came about. Then you'll understand that if we don't play in it, we lose. Right now, we're not playing in it. We're getting played on.
I agree.
You see what I'm saying? Right now, we're not playing in it. We're getting played on. They're giving us what we think we picking. We ain't picked nobody to go to Washington, D.C. We ain't sent nobody downtown. Right. So, but once we learn to play that game, we can move anywhere in the country. We can do us a great black migration and go take over a city, go take over a county. We can annex a town and make our own mayor, make our own police department. But if we don't play that game, man, that's their greatest game. That's why they'll kill and fight over it. Go watch the gangs of New York. Go watch the gangs of New York, man, and see what vote mean to them people, man. So, man, they walk blocks. They do phone banking. They old grandmothers at 70 and 80 get and participate in this. And they be energetic. They be enthusiastic. So we need to take note of that. It's a reason why.
No, I agree with that. You know, you said something powerful, Charleston. You know, and I man, I've been working on this. On
man,
this
I'm
show.
gonna have to get out of here, man. Mama's steady peeking out the window, boy.
Go ahead, brother. hey, thank you, Charleston, man. I appreciate it, brother.
Go ahead and say what you gonna say, man.
Real quick. I know you gotta go, man, but I appreciate it, man. But you guys go check out The Real Charleston White. I'm gonna ask you this question.
We can do a part 2 whenever you want to do one, man.
Okay, they're good. We'll do a part 2. Go ahead. I'm gonna ask you this question real quick, and we'll do a part 2. Who is the real Charleston White? Who is the real Charleston White?
Man, let me just say this. The real Charleston White is a man who has remorse for killing somebody as a kid.
No doubt. I respect
I'm empathetic about that. because I met that man's family and I looked at them people, man. And you can say what you want about white people, man. Them people got every reason to hate us, and they forgave us. They forgave us. Charleston is a man that lives to make his mother proud, homie. So some of the things I say, man, my mother won't even let nobody tell her about, because it's some shameful thing, calling women bees, but even Jesus' mother and father didn't understand the role he had to play. Mama hate the fact that I will put myself and put my life in jeopardy to speak how I'm speaking, when I can easily just go back and work with kids.
Right.
But man, I'm operating out of my convictions.
Right.
Out of what I know that's against and hurting our communities.
Right.
I participated in it. I done it. So Charleston White is a man that's operating and walking in purpose, that wake up every day facilitating a vision. I have a plan. Before I walk out of my door, I get in my shower and I get in that water and I drop to my knees and I ask God to fill me with whatever Holy Spirit, whatever spirit you got, God, deposit it in me. God, don't let my heart be hardened toward my own people. God, I don't want to be hateful. God, I don't want to be wrong. If I got to cry, I cry. And I get up and I baptize my own self and I come out that door and I go live and I be full of energy and I be rejoicing, because I understand what God called me to do, man. So I don't care what nobody say, homie. If you really look at Charleston White, and if you really know Charleston White, then you would say, man, that's what redemption look like.
Well, brother, you definitely a testament of redemption. And listen, we will do a part 2, man. First of all, I'm honored you came on. I want to finish this discussion, because, there's some that, it's a lot of beef out here in the streets, but I love your energy. I love your passion. I love your intellect. And I'm very, very impressed, man. Very impressed, man. Very impressed. So we're going to do.
Thank you, brother. And thank you, brother. And tell Dr. O I said hello. I sent my love.
No doubt.
I appreciate her for always throwing me these alley hoops.
No doubt, brother. Go enjoy your family, man. Much love and blessings, brother. Be safe.
Okay, brother. Peace and love.
No doubt. Be good, brother.
All
right. Yeah. So you guys got the real Charleston White. Charleston is the real deal. He is a provocateur on Facebook, not Facebook, but YouTube. He's big time in these YouTube streets. And we're going to finish the discussion. We're going to finish the discussion about, the power of being resilient and why resiliency is so important to a lot of black men and black women and black families. And listen, you don't have to like Charleston. Charleston is a man of his own conviction. I know there's some people that got beef with him, but I didn't bring Charleston on to talk about YouTube beef. I brought him on to talk about the power of resilience and why family is so important and why power is so important, because if we're going to get to the next level, we need to understand where our power relies. Our power does not reside in victimhood. So one of the things we're going to do, I'm going to allow some to come on the panel and share and talk. And shout out to my dear friend, Dr. O, for chopping it up. And guys, if you have not supported the channel, please like, share, and subscribe to the content. Please donate to $7Smalls. Please donate to $7Smalls. And we're going to finish this discussion. And shout out to my man, Tim Howard. He always hold it down for me. I appreciate it, Tim. Much love and respect, brother. I love what you're doing. I appreciate what you're trying to do for me. But in the meantime, until while I'm circulating this show, I want you guys to hit the like button, share the content, and we're going to have a discussion. We're going to have a discussion about the power of resilience, the power of having fathers, and how fathers are so important. And if you have any consternation about Mr. White, let's have a discussion, because there are some people like what's my brother's name, Ben Lee Jordan. It seems like he has some disdain. But I didn't bring Charleston here to talk about beef. I don't care about that. I'm just talking about him and his power and resilience. So what you guys can do, click on the link. Tim gonna drop the link in a minute, and we're gonna finish. Playing the stream in a minute. So hold tight. We're gonna finish the stream, guys. In a minute. Just hold tight. As we're doing this interlude, this is an interlude. Coming to you live once again from the greatest state in the Union, the Tar Heel State, where the topography is serene, pristine, and verdant green, where every day is Father's Day, and where manhood is part of hills and valleys, victories and failures, and whereas men, we don't agree on all things or ideologies, but tonight we come together as allies of a common cause, only to dissipate once the crisis is over. Now listen, I'm about to drop some fire for your mind, but before I drop that fire, let's explore why we are doing the Manhood Chronicles. So once again, the topic of discussion is Charleston White, From Death to Power. And some of you men are going from death to power because some of you grew up in broken homes. And so we're going to add to the discussion. I'm going to allow people to come in and talk about the resilience that they're going through due to fatherlessness or their environment, and how resilience has played a role in their psychosocial stages of development. So we're going to finish listening to the stream real quick, this quick clip of Brother Charleston White.
I can have me a starter jacket to wear.
Keep listening, guys. Hold tight.
At Tingles. All I had to do was go home, man, and ask my mama to buy me one. Do good in school, and I could have got anything I asked for. So I went and got my buddy DJ. DJ was a good kid. Had never really been in any trouble. We went and got his friends, Big Twan and Lil Twan. Big Twan was an older teenager guy, and all of these kids was older than me, right? I was the youngest, but I was the brains out of the bunch. I always had leadership skills and qualities. And so we went to the Farm 303 Mall. We went to Foot Locker. Tony Dorsett, a legendary running back for the Dallas Cowboys, Tony Dorsett had a club at this mall. So when we go inside the Foot Locker, there was this black dude that looked like he could run fast. So we went and played video game. We said we'll do it later. So we come back later on that day, come back, and it was a white guy working in there. So we went in there, tried on hats, tried on jackets, and ran out. And in the process of us running out, there was a white guy by the name of Michael Levy in the parking lot working on his car. Unbeknownst to us, Mr. Levy had just got married 3 days prior to that incident. And so he saw what was happening, saw us running out, and tried to thwart us, tried to stop us from stealing those jackets. He ran, jumped on top of the car, started hitting the windshield with some tool that he was working on his car with. Glass was shattering in my friend's face. I handed him the gun and instructed him to shoot Mr. Levy. He shot Mr. Levy. We drove away laughing. I made everybody laugh, you know, being the comical guy that I am, not really having a full understanding and concept what we had just done, right? We didn't know he was dying. We didn't know he had died. Undeveloped brains. So we leave there, we abandon the car across the street from the mall, walk across the street, go over to some older teenager guy's house. They give us a ride to a dope fiend who we was going to go trick with, and that's where we got caught. I remember being arrested, man, and the police officer, because I was already been in trouble with the police before. I was out on a year of probation for shooting at some white people at a pizza inn for calling me a nigger. I got released from juvenile detention center 2 weeks prior to that capital murder charge on attempted murder for trying to run some guys over in a stolen car. And the only reason they let me out is so I can go, so my mother can go enroll me in school. And then a week later, man, I come back for capital murder.
Okay, well then in 1991, you...
All right, so let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation about the power of resilience. Tim, if you haven't dropped the link, drop the link. Let's have a conversation, and let's talk about Mr. Charleston White. Mr. Charleston White is a very talented man. He's an enigma to some. He's loved by many, hated by some. But let's have a discussion. But let's talk about also the power of purpose and how you can go from power, from death to power, if you don't stay in your victimhood. So to the guys that are listening, Tim dropped the link, brother, or I dropped the link. And you have not donated, donate to Cash App $7Smalls. Please donate to Cash App $7Smalls. And thank you for my man, Mr. Para. I think he donated $5 to the super chat. Jay Para, thank you, brother. I know a lot going on. The lead attorney got a show going on tonight about, can't think of the guy's name, but thank you, guys. I appreciate it, Jay Para. So let's have a conversation because Charleston made some very valid points. I'm going to drop the link. Tim's going to drop the link for you guys. And let's have a discussion because many of our men are in a state of victimhood. And if you're going to ever get to power, you must more or less reduce your status of victimhood. So let's have a conversation. Let's talk about fathers and fatherlessness. Let's talk about the black community. Let's talk about the relationship that our women are having. And let's talk about, let's give feedback from what you guys heard about my man Charleston White. Excellent interview. So let's have a conversation. All right, so it's about 7 watching. We're a little slow tonight, but it's okay. It's all good. Charleston came through. I'm grateful for the brother coming through. But what do you think about what Charleston White said? What do you think about the power of purpose? What do you think about the power of brotherhood? What do you think about the power of fathers being in your life? What resonated with you based on what Charleston White said? Charleston White, you can find him on The Real Charleston White. Charleston White was on Vlad TV as well. And he's a big name in the YouTube, very big name. And I'm honored to have him on my show. Regardless if you like his position on different things, I didn't bring him on to talk about gang stuff. I don't care about that. I just brought him on to talk about who the real Charleston White is and how he made an evolution from where he was at to where he is at now. So let's have a conversation, guys, to the ones that are listening, because I used to work in the juvenile court system. If you guys got any questions for me, let's have a conversation. Tim have dropped the link. And so let's have a conversation. If you want to have a conversation about this discussion with Charleston White, what you like about what he said, what you don't agree with, why you see, what issues you see with the conversation that Mr. White said, and let's have a conversation because we know that the black community is in a state of disrepair. We know that the black community needs healing. We know that fathers play a role, and a very strong role, in the evolution of their children. So how do you guys resonate with my man Charleston White? What about the things that Charleston said made you resonate with him? What were some of the things that Charleston said made you say, aha, I agree with that? And are you a victim? Are you still mired in victimhood? It's about 7 people watching. Anyone can come on. Tim have dropped the link. So come on, let's have a discussion before I shut the show down, because it's very important that we have these conversations. Fathers play a major role in the development and the psycho development of their children. And when fathers are more or less present, children are less prone to delinquency. So to the men that are listening, what role did your father play in your life? Were you more or less prone to delinquency? And what did Charleston White say that resonated with you as a man? So let's have a discussion. It's about 7 people watching. If you want to add to the discussion, I'm going to start counting down in about 3 to 5 minutes. But I think Charleston added some great insight to the show tonight. We talked about the power of being resilient. So is there anyone that's listening that want to join the conversation or join the conversation with me? If not, I'm going to shut the show down in about 2 or 3 minutes. But I want to bring Charleston on to talk about why being resilient is so powerful, and why you don't have to more or less mire in victimhood. So does anyone want to talk, or does anyone want to have a discussion or ask me any questions about victimhood and how victimhood has played a role in their development as well? So anybody want to share and talk? If so, let's do it now. Does anyone want to have a conversation? If not, we're going to shut it down in a minute. So before I shut it down, you guys, y'all can leave some comments in the comment sections. What did you guys get from what Charleston was talking about? Tell me what was relevant that Charleston said that make you guys have an aha moment. What was relevant about the conversation that Brother Charleston White had, and how did it resonate with you as a young man and also as an older man? How did it resonate? Okay, I see my man Ty Maynard coming. What's up, Ty? Ty, what's up, brother? How you doing, sir? Can you hear me? Ty, can you hear me? What's up, brother?
Yeah. I can hear you. 1 second, let me
Yes, sir.
switch my headset.
All right. So once again, that was Charleston White. Charleston White used to be an OG, a Crip. He's big time in these YouTube streets. He's a hero to some. He's hated by others. But we're going to talk about the impact and the role of fathers in the lives of their children. And Charleston talked about the life that he had. And, you know, trauma can actually shape you in a negative way if you don't have the proper resources or the proper intestinal fortitude to deal with the struggle that you're having. My man D said that females sacrificed our entire race in 60 and 65. They rejected their fathers and righteousness. And I think there's some truth to what you're saying, Brother D. And Brother D, if you want to pop in for a minute and chop it up and share, feel free to talk and share. As I'm waiting for my man Ty. So Ty, unmute yourself, man, and let's have a conversation, because Charleston White is a big name in YouTube, and I was honored to have him on my show. Like I said, he's an enigma to some. He's loved by others. He didn't have to come on my show. You know, he's on Vlad TV. If you know anything about Vlad TV, Vlad TV is a very big platform, millions of followers. So what did you get from the conversation, Ty, real quick, brother?
Yeah, so I'm somewhat familiar with Charleston White. I watched the video of him on, I think it was Instagram, where he was discussing a young man who's a rapper who's been blackballed from the industry because they found out that he snitched or something when he was a kid, you know, and he was just making such good points about how the industry people in the industry are failing our kids, teaching them the bad things about snitching and all this stuff. So I really enjoyed that. So the excerpt I just heard that you sent regarding the fathers and lack of fathers in the Black community is huge. Like, it's so huge, and this is something that I'm realizing now as I'm becoming a man, realizing so much that I haven't learned. Just the things that just come difficult to do, the focus, the drive, like to have the path in life, just handling things, responsibility is a lot of stuff that is lacking when you weren't raised, and with a man in the house. And to give a little bit about my background, my father was killed before I was born. So he was in the drug game, so he was big time in the drug game. And, in that world, people kill people. And, so he died before I was born. And my mom was 19 at the time. And I started, my grandfather took me in like when I was 5. So, he put me through school. So that was the man I had in my life. Just him and I, and the thing was, there was a slight disconnect because of the age difference. Like when I was born, he was in his 50s already, so he's an old man. But I can see when I look back at the stuff that I've learned and the way I see things is so much influenced by how he's seen things, and how he was. And the just what the stuff that I gained and learned, that if I didn't have him at all, I would not have had these things. Because as much as I love my mother, now as an adult looking back, I can see just some areas where she just had a hard time, and she had a hard time as a kid. You know what I mean? Like it's generational trauma. Legacy burdens, they call it. And so I understand, like, these things, when you don't have any male role models in the house, you're gonna find a male role model. Boys, men have to find men. We have to be with men, whether that's the good or the bad. And when I look around at my family members, I can point to all of them, ones who aren't doing good. If they didn't have a father, some type of role model in their life, chances are they're not doing good. And even as a man now, how I mingle with some of my friends and the stuff that, you know, being an image coach, teaching men how to dress well. Like, these are things that a father would do already. But when we have a lack of fathers in the household, then a lot of these skills get missed. And that leads you to stuff like gangs and things like that, because you need that masculine energy. And that's, you know, that's what I took from that that episode you put up.
Right. Yeah. You know, I was very honored to have Charleston on, man. You know, as I said earlier, Charleston is a big name in YouTube, and you know, he commands a lot of attention, whether you see it as good or bad. What else resonated with you, Ty, as it relates to Charleston? And do you see yourself as being resilient as a man? And if so, how?
Yeah, I made my career off of being resilient. You know, I'm an image coach. I didn't become an image coach because I was in fashion or because you know, I was my grandfather was a tailor or anything like that. I was going through a rough time in my late 20s, where I felt like I just wasn't doing nothing in life. You know, I wasn't succeeding. I wasn't doing what I thought I can do, and I was always considered smart. You know, I'm like, why is my life not showing what it should be shown? And then when my relationship started to go south, which was the only good thing I had going, you know, that's how things were. That was the only good thing I had going. When that went south, it was like, man, let me take an honest look in the mirror at my life. And I realized that I have been failing myself for a long time, you know? And so I was like, you know, I need to take control. If I want to be seen as somebody who matters, who's important, I need to present myself as that. So let me start dressing like a man. And that's when I started just to wear my professional clothes. And I saw how people respond differently to me. And I saw how I see myself different. You know, I started to, you know, not be as lazy, not play PlayStation, not work a job I didn't want to work. You know, I started taking charge of my life, you know. And when I think back about that, and now, you know, fast forward to today, I'm helping guys who are going through bad relationships, right? So I basically make a living by teaching men how to overcome what I overcame. You know, I created programs and coaching programs, and I've had guys, you know, pay thousands of dollars for my trainings, just so they can gain something that if I would have just went through this thing and let it kill me, or you know, or got with another woman, just to, like how some people do, they try to, you know, to get with somebody else, or they try to not realize where their area of improvement could be in their situation, then they just fold. You know, they have these perpetual failures in life. And I kind of turned that around. And I think that anybody who goes through stuff like that, who's resilient, once you, that whole saying, whatever kills you don't make you stronger, is true. You know, and there's a gift in that. Whatever you overcame, chances are it's a common thing. You know, it's a common thing. If something that you went through, chances are it's a common thing. If you learn how to overcome it, you can teach other people how to overcome it. Mm-hmm. You know, similar to, you know, therapists, you know, understanding how we have to unleash some of these burdens and traumas that we have. That's the whole purpose of that industry, you know. So I think it's invalidly important, and that's how I overcame my resilience. Allowed me to overcome that situation.
No doubt. And you know, you're right. What don't kill you does make you a lot stronger. Sometimes people have to go through the negative ravages of growing up in the inner city, growing up without fathers, and also sometimes growing up with toxic mothers. And sometimes that negative shaping can cause them to go into a negative cataclysm if they don't get the proper guidance that they deserve and want. What else did you get from the show? And we're going to shut it down in a minute if anyone else will want to come in. But if anyone else want to come in while my man Ty's here, feel free to join the conversation. If not, we're going to pop off in a minute. But what else did you get from Brother Charleston White? Because once again, you know, I'm honored that he popped in on the show. I really appreciate it. But what else did you get from the brother? Tom, mute yourself. Tom, mute yourself, brother.
It wasn't letting me unmute. All right, so you know, the video that I seen, I didn't watch the I didn't know you had him on the show.
Right.
So I didn't watch the whole thing. I just seen that small part just now. I was driving, but I do want to talk about the interview that I seen with him when I was first introduced to him. About how passionate he was about what he was saying, you know, about how he was passionate about giving the right message to the kids. You know what I mean? Like, that was his whole thing is that the messages that we give to these kids, we just allowing them to look up to knuckleheads. You know, in the industry, we have them look up, and that's why he got where he was. You know, when you're in a position where you have a bunch of boys who are in a place where they have no guidance, they have no way to push that testosterone, no place to use that smart mind of his. You know what I mean? He's going to think about ways to get himself in trouble. You know, clever ways to get in trouble. You know, instead of things that's gonna benefit him. That's what happens when there are no men in the community. You know, and this is a big deal. And I know earlier you spoke about how, you know, the situations with women. The thing is that women not having a loving father in the household is one of the biggest ways that contributors to women being bitter about men. Mm-hmm. You know, if you never had a man in your life that loved you unconditionally, which is, you know, what a father's love would be, hugging you, kissing you, showing you the ropes, understanding what masculine man is, showing what dominance is, seeing what a man does and how he is, what masculine is, how he takes care of things, right? And also how he takes care of things with your mother, right? It is important for her to also see a positive relationship with the mother as well. You know, when she doesn't have that, her only interactions is with men in a romantic situation. You know, and if she's dating guys who are her age, her peers, those guys are knuckleheads. They don't know what they're doing. I know I was when I was young, you know, so I was making mistakes. And this is what they see men as. They never really got a good foundation of what a man is. Just like boys who don't grow up with fathers, they don't get a good foundation of what a man is. They see what they see on TV. And those messages are filtered. They're filtered for, you know, for whatever they're filtered for, dollars, for influence, for selling products, for, you know, changing opinions. And we're listening to this and we're learning how to be people from what we're seeing that's going through some type of weird filter, you know, and we don't realize, like, I haven't realized that some of the stuff that I enjoyed when I was young was harmful. Like some of the music, some of the hip hop about the killings and all this stuff. Even I was watching the movie Bloodsport. Bloodsport is a movie back from the 80s about Jean-Claude Van Damme. He goes to China or whatever. He fights in their underground competition. And when I was a kid, I was like, man, I want to be Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now when I look at that movie, I'm like, why is this white man coming to this Asian place trying to make the rules of their place? Like, is this these things that I haven't realized when I was younger, I'm starting to realize now. And I wonder, what about the things I don't realize that influence me in a negative way? You know, and this is why I think our relationships are being broken down and we don't even see it. We don't even see where the fight started. We just wake up in a fight and now we defending our position, you know, not realizing that we're all being played. The reason why the men aren't in our communities is because they were taken out. It wasn't an accident, you know, and this is what's happening. This is what has been happening. I'm happy to see, you know, somebody who coming from where he is to speak real and to get that leverage, to get that exposure to the point where people are able to hear somebody who's real. Because a lot of times on this social media, like in order for you there's so much garbage being spit, and that's what's getting the views. That's what's getting the promotion. You know what I mean? That's what's getting the exposure, and it's garbage. And this is what our young people are listening to, and then they're operating on that garbage. You know, so I'm happy that we have guys like him who are getting out there speaking the truth, and we have channels like this that's able to speak some truth.
Well, yeah. You know, I put a lot of time in this show, man. You know, I would say probably about 5 hours preparing for it, and I'm glad he came on. You know, like I said, you know, if you know anything about YouTube, when you have a smaller channel, some guys won't pop in, but Charleston was kind enough to pop in, and I'm grateful. And some even charge you a fee to come on that show. It is what it is. It's capitalism, but I'm grateful that the brother came on. I'm grateful that he popped in and shared some knowledge with the brothers. And whether you like him or not is irrelevant. The man adds a lot of clarity, and he tells his story through his pain, through his trauma, but also he lets you know that you don't forever have to be a victim. It's about 7 people watching. If anyone else wanted to join the conversation with me and my man Tom Maynard Cutner, please, Tim, if more or less shared the link, pop in. And guys, for the 8 guys that are listening, if you have not donated, please donate to Cash App $7Smalls. Please donate to Cash App $7Smalls. Let's have a discussion about the power of resilience, but also what your impression of Mr. Charleston White was. So to the guys that are listening, pop in. I know, D, you always make a lot of good comments and add a lot of clarity to the show. Feel free to pop in, D, and share your points. And in the next 2 minutes. If not, we're going to pop off and we're going to keep this train moving. Ty, you have a son. What would you tell your son that you felt like your father didn't tell you as a man?
Yeah. One of the things that I told my son, I give him this analogy, right? That that a man has a boat. You know, and that boat is that man's life. You know, when a man is when he gets out of his dad's home, he has an old boat. Now his boat's gonna be rickety. He's not gonna have much in the boat. He's not gonna be able to hold anybody else but himself in that boat. If he tries to add somebody else to that boat, he's probably gonna sink. And that somebody else is women. You start adding women to your boat, or kids, when you don't have an opportunity to build that boat up into a place where it can build more. And basically, that's the life that you want to live. When you're, as a young man, you should not be focused on women or relationships, kids, all that stuff. That should not be your focus. Your focus should be identifying what your purpose is in life. By exposing yourself to things, traveling, you know, getting your education, getting your skills, right? Finding out what you're good at, understanding yourself, so that when it is time for you to, as you start to build your boat up, you'll be able to take on more people, you know, like a woman, you know, you can hold more weight. And his boat is going to be, the way he builds his boat is based on how I build my boat, you know, based on how I build my boat, not based on what I tell him, but based on what he sees. So it's extremely important for me to show him how it is to be a man, right? Show him how things should be, because that's what is missing in our communities. You know, we don't have and even if you have a father, even if you're a person who grew up with your father, your best friend didn't, your cousin may not have. And you're being influenced by these people too. You know, the way you interact with them, the way they interact with you, you know, the bullies and all that stuff. These are things that are based on lack of man in the community. There was a time when you would have, because I know my son, I'm an image coach. You know, I help men all the time. But my son, as good as I am, as wise as I am, or as wise as I think I am, he's not going to be able to learn every single thing from me. He's going to need other men who are going to have to come in here that he would respect in a different way, that can tell him in a different way, right? For him to learn these skills. But when you have a community that you lucky if you have a father, let alone another man in the community who has the time to spend with you and he ain't with your mother, which is usually what will happen. The only time, you know, young men, you know, would get around other men is if they do this with the mother. And that only lasts as long as that relationship lasts. Chances are it's not going to last forever because she's probably not good with men. You know what I mean? And you have that situation going on. So there's a huge lack in our community when it comes to men. And that's the reason why I do what I do. I'm actually working on at some point we're going to talk about this. I'm working on a training for college students, for young men who are in college, for their families, to teach them how to dress well. Because it's my idea is that in order for men to get into manhood, you have to first look like a man. It's very difficult for you to really be in manhood and go towards manhood if you're still dressing like a kid with the sneakers and the t-shirts and the ripped jeans and all that stuff. Especially if you have the talents and skills, you're shooting yourself in the foot, right? So I'm working on a program that's going to help these young men start going into manhood by first looking like a young man, so that other men will respect them when they speak, right? And they'll respect themselves. So I think that this manosphere, the stuff that's coming out of it, the men who are actually starting to see how the negative effects of their former ways and like coming and bringing it to, you know, this new generation that's coming up is phenomenal. And I'm hoping that we get more guys who can really connect with these young people, because when the goal for my program is to eventually have a, you know, almost like a Netflix account for young men to learn how to be men. So not just about how to dress, but how to manage your money, how to start relationships, how your career should be going, how to set up your family, your retirement, all these things that we just didn't learn from our fathers.
Indeed. What you're saying, Ty, is very powerful, and I totally concur with your sentiments and what you're saying. It's about 50 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. I'm so honored and grateful once again that Brother Charleston White came on. And we're going to sign off. And Ty, listen, let's get ready, man. We're going to do a show talking about narcissistic personality disorders. And some of you men that are dating have been victims of women that were narcissistic. And shout out to my man Tim Howard for the $5 cash app. Thank you, Tim. Tim always come through, brother. I'm proud of you. I appreciate everything that you do, your tenacity as you try to expand the brand of manhood on many of these platforms. Brother Tim, thank you, brother. Once again, I'm honored that you're a moderator and you always come through, and I love your consistency, man. You're very consistent, and I'm grateful for that. And yes, Brother D, yes, we're going to chop it up, man. We're going to talk about narcissistic personality disorder. What Ty actually work in is talking about love after betrayal. So we're going to talk about that. But anyway, it's 51 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. We're about to sign off in a minute. And, Charleston White has proven that you don't have to be a victim of powerlessness. You don't have to let your past more or less define who you are. You can gravitate from death to power if you're willing to introspect and do the shallow work. But also, if you don't continue to mire in victimhood. Listen, I know, and you know that being a victim does play a role in the mental pathology of a human being. But you don't have to stay in your victimhood if you want to have the heart of a warrior and have the spirit of a victor. So I want you guys to remember this, that there are 7 steps that a man must go through to become an optimized male, and family is one of those steps. And I want you guys once again to remember that if it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. We're going to have a Power Pack shows coming on this week. Hit all notification buttons to the guys that are listening. Share this content. Help me get to 2,000 subs. We're almost there. Help me get to 2,000. And we got a good show coming up Monday, and we got a couple more shows coming in. So, guys, once again, much love. Thanks for all the support. And once again, thank you for my man Charleston White from popping in. Be well.